Hello, today's video is a little bit different from my normal ones. I usually do build challenge videos on this channel, but I also love gameplay. I've played The Sims my whole life, but I took a long gap basically from about 2011-ish until 2019. I didn't play The Sims. I was just really busy with school and stuff, and I didn't have a console for a while, and I grew up playing on console. I didn't play on PC until I got The Sims 4, which was in 2019, which is when I got back to The Sims. And like a lot of players, I kind of struggled with sticking to one family. I didn't really have a goal of doing that. I would just start playing with a save file and then just, I don't know, get bored or not know what to do with it or something. But then I started playing with this one save file. And I had just started the second generation, and I was completely hooked on them. And I knew that I was going to stay with that family for a very long time. And as of now, I've been playing them for about 3 years. And so I think I found a strategy of keeping the game interesting that really works for me. So that's what this video is going to be today. It's going to be lots of tips and advice on how to keep the gameplay fun. So these are my families. These are the ones that I play with. They all started from the same 2 Sims. However, I'm only about 4 generations in. I think the 5th generation is just now being born. So like the babies and toddlers in these photos are the 5th generation. That's completely up to you. It depends on how long you like to play specific lifespans. I like really long ones, obviously. I think my oldest Sim has been alive for maybe 1,200 days. So that's just me. So here is the family in my legacy that I'll be showing you to explain kind of how I decided everything. This Sim was in the 3rd generation of my legacy, and then she married this Sim, and now they have 2 kids, Adrian and Isaac. And the way that I structure my legacy is that your upbringing, your life, your parents' life, all of it kind of affects the way that you're going to turn out, or that your Sim will turn out. And so when this Sim was a baby, his parents weren't really home very often because they had very busy jobs. She's a veterinarian and he's a DJ. He plays at clubs. I also have a mod that lets him go off on gigs. So neither of them were home very often. And so he often went to daycare when he was a baby. And so when he aged up into a toddler, I gave him the clingy trait because he didn't have his parents around very much. And so he was clingier as a toddler. Other ways that I might decide what the toddler's trait would be if they're very quiet and don't really bother you that much and they always have positive reactions to their parent after they're born. Then I might give them something like angelic or charmer. Another way that I might decide a toddler's trait would be if they're really loud and always waking up the Sim parent, then I might give them the fussy trait, which is actually my favorite toddler trait. It just gives them so much personality and they always have like cute little moodlets. Like you can't tell me what to do, but like even more intense than that, like it'll have them yell at their parent and then the moodlet will be something like, I always get my way. It's just really funny. So I love playing with the fussy trait, but I would only give it to a toddler Sim who was actually really fussy as a baby. So like I said, for this Sim, he was a clingy toddler. So I don't influence what skills my toddlers gain. I kind of just let them go along and just see where their skills end up by the time they're ready to age up into a child. But let's say, for example, your Sim toddler gets level 5 in creativity. And so the highest level skill, the level 5 creativity, is what decides my Sim child's first trait. So I picked music lover for this Sim. I could have picked, creative or art lover or something like that, but I decided to go with music lover since his dad is a DJ and is also a music lover. So I felt like that was the best out of the creative traits for this Sim to get when he aged up to a child. And it matched his highest toddler skill. And so I feel like that's their natural talent. It's something that they were born to be good at. And his second highest skill, I'm having trouble remembering what his is, but let's just say it was the thinking skill. Let's say he had a level 4 thinking skill when he aged up to a child. And so that means I'm going to take that and make it his aspiration for when he's a child, because that's something that he was pretty good at, but not the best at. It's something that he wants to be better at. So the mental skill, the WizKid aspiration, is going to be his aspiration as a child. If your Sim has 2 traits that are tied, like they have 2 toddler skill traits at level 5 or 2 at level 4 or something like that, then you just kind of have to pick one, and you could pick based on like the parents, like how much influence they would have had on the kid when they were growing up, stuff like that. And so when this sim was a child, they had their music lover trait, they had their whiz kid aspiration. Their parents were still working really hard, but they started to get more money. Just, in my gameplay, the vet clinics started doing better and the DJ gigs started getting more tips because he got higher skill levels and he was able to upgrade his equipment. And so they had a lot more money, and by the time they had their second child, Adrian, so Isaac's little brother, they were able to stay home more often. And so in my head, I decided Isaac was a little bit bitter about that. He felt jealous that his little brother got more attention from his parents. And now that they were home more often, they couldn't even pay attention to him when he was doing really well at school with his whiz kid aspiration, and he was a really talented musician too. And so when he aged up to a teen, this is my strategy for aging my Sims up to a teen. I always give them their bad trait then. My Sims always have one bad trait. And when I say bad trait, I just mean something that's going to be more difficult. It might make it harder for them to make friends and stuff like that. So for this sim, I picked the hot-headed trait. So he's usually pretty angry and he gets into arguments very often. And I would let that show in the gameplay. If he got home late from school, he went to hang out with his friends, I would have one of his parents get upset with him. And he'd be like, "Why do you care, Mom?" Or at least that's how I imagined the conversation going in my head. So I would let him get into arguments with his parents pretty often. And then next, for the trait that he got when he aged up into an adult, it kind of takes a turn. It goes from hot-headed to good. His family has a lot of drama. This is 3-4 generations in, so there's a lot of drama in the past. And so his mom is not close with her family at all, her sister or her parents, just because of all of the drama in this family. Her sister might be a serial killer, and it's. But then his mom had reason to suspect that her son, Isaac here, was talking to her family, her parents and her serial killer sister. And the reason that she believed her son was talking to them is because he was getting a lot of phone calls from them. So his aunt, the serial killer, was calling him a lot, and the mom found out, and she thought that meant that he had a relationship with them. He wasn't at all. It was a false accusation, and so obviously he got mad about that. He was a little hothead. So that's me taking elements of The Sims 4 that can kind of be annoying, like constant phone calls and stuff like that, and turning it into a storyline. And so he and his mom got in a big argument. He stormed out of the house. He didn't come home for a while. He went on an impromptu vacation with his girlfriend. But then when he finally came home, his mom decided to not be angry with him and to apologize for overreacting. She asked him about the situation. They made up. And this was kind of just spurred by the conversation that they had when he came home. It started off angry because I had him getting angry at her, but then they just started talking more casually, and in my head I was like, oh, okay, she's trying to fix things between them and apologize for overreacting. And he knows why his mom doesn't want him to talk to that family because, serial killer sister. And so when he aged up to a young adult, I decided that his final trait would be good because he's trying really hard to not be like his extended family. And then finally, the aspiration I gave him for adulthood is because he had a bit of a neglected childhood since his parents were so busy with work and everything, and they had more time for his little brother than they did for him. This is sad. Anyway, I gave him the super parent aspiration because he doesn't want his kid to ever feel that way. So this is Matthias, his little sister. This girl was a genius and he was kind of jealous of her. But on top of that, this guy has 4 siblings, and the dad has 3 of the kids who live with him. But then this kid and one other grew up with their mom. But the dad was the spellcaster in the family. Their mom, his mom, and then the other kid, they both have human moms. And so on top of feeling jealous of his sister being a genius, he also felt jealous that his other spellcaster siblings had a spellcaster dad that they grew up with who could teach them magic and show them the magical world in Glimmerbrook, whereas he just grew up with humans. And so he felt kind of bitter about that. So that's why when he aged up to a teen, I gave him this jealous trait, or maybe that was his young adult trait, I don't know. Anyway, and it was partially because of his upbringing with things like that, but also partially influenced by his dad yet again, who was a bit of a player when he was in college and his whole young adulthood. He cheated on his first girlfriend, who is his mom had a baby with some other girl, but he lied about how it happened. Anyway, a whole messy story there. And then he cheated again with somebody else and then had more kids. So I had him also kind of become a player in college, which was interesting because he had the jealous trait. And so it's kind of like one of those things where what you accuse people of doing is what's actually wrong with you. So he would always get jealous of the girls he was seeing and accuse them of doing something with somebody else, but really he was the cheater all along. And it was kind of influenced by how his dad was. Even though he didn't grow up with his dad, he still really looked up to his dad and kind of wanted to emulate him, even on a subconscious level. And so that made him the way that he is. But he's better now. He found a lovely wife. He treats her very well. He does not cheat on her. Oh, fiance still. Anyway, I have 2 engaged people in this household, 2 engaged couples, and I can't bring myself to do 2 weddings in one household. It's so much work. The last sim that I'll show you is this one, and her traits kind of got mixed up here. I don't really know what happened, but anyway, when she aged up to a child, I gave her the self-assured trait. I think social skill might have been her highest or something like that. And then when she aged up to a teen, I gave her the mean trait. And the reason I gave her that is because her family was really rich when she was growing up. They were star actors and artists and stuff like that. But then one day when she was a teen, they lost all their money, and I kind of had someone steal all of it. So I used mods for that, but you could do that in the game. You could have a kleptomaniac sim come over and take everything. But this was sort of a family affair. It was someone in their sort of extended family who took all of their money. It was actually the serial killer that I mentioned earlier. This family has a lot of history. So they lost all their money. She lost the privileged lifestyle that she grew up with. So they moved to the very far suburbs of Copperdale from their fancy San Myshuno apartment. And they started with nothing. And so she was pretty upset about that. Her parents had a much more healthy outlook on it, I guess. I think they saw it as starting fresh. So they were always kind of in a good mood. And she was just what the heck, guys? Why do I live in this tiny little town when I could be in my nice apartment in San Myshuno with my celebrity friends? You took all my friends from me, you moved me to the middle of nowhere, and now we have nothing. So yeah, I gave her the mean trait as a teen, and that was a lot of fun. She made so many enemies in high school. I think her first day of high school, she made 2 enemies and got into 3 fights or something like that. She aged up to a young adult. I gave her the party animal trait because she was a party animal in high school, and I just decided to kind of keep that going. But while she made a lot of enemies in high school, she also started to realize maybe I'm not going about things the best way. And maybe if I try harder, I could actually make friends that last a while. So she was kind of friends with the school bully, and a lot of her friends would just kind of get into random arguments with her. And it was because of the mean trait. Arguments would just kind of start out of nowhere. But in my head, I decided it was because they were telling her that she shouldn't be friends with the bully, but it was her best friend. And she was like, why are you guys telling me what to do? So she didn't want to end that friendship. So she was always getting into little arguments with her other friends. But eventually she realized, maybe I'm not going about this the right way. Maybe I shouldn't be friends with that girl anymore. And so she made a new best friend, and she had a good remainder of high school. And also toward the end of high school, she made friends with someone else who she realized she had a crush on, but because of how mean and basically horrible she was in high school, just constantly picking fights with everybody, she kind of felt like she wasn't really worthy of that really nice, sweet sim yet. And so they've been taking things very slowly in college, and I just had them become girlfriends yesterday in my gameplay. That's how I kind of keep it interesting. I take these traits and how they were in their childhood and their teen years, and I have that decide how their relationships go. And I have that kind of trigger what the next trait will be. So I hope that this video inspired you to kind of take things from your Sim's childhood, their upbringing, their surroundings. That's what keeps me engaged if I'm following a specific storyline, but one that's triggered by the gameplay. It's not just random challenges that I throw their way, it's something that's deeply ingrained in their lives. And that's what keeps me hooked on the family that I've been playing for 3 years. and it makes the gameplay so much more interesting for me. If you have any other advice or ideas or ways that you've made your game more interesting in a way that you actually want to play it all the time, please feel free to let me know in the comments and share your thoughts. Anyway, that's the video, and I hope you enjoyed these tips. And if you're not already, please make sure to like and subscribe. I mostly do build videos on this channel, but I also want to start doing more gameplay videos. So that's all for today, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!